So we've talked a little bit about kind of analyzing what's going on. We've talked about some practical implications or applications of how distribution might fit in. Let me come over to you for a second, Whitney. I mean, you deal with this a lot, and I think it feels like the net is like it's really hard for brands to figure this out on their own and to execute it their own. And then certainly there's some other, frameworks that they may want to consider outside of just, for example, distribution. So I guess my question for you is really like, how do these brands like Adam mentioned, and you certainly deal with a ton over at Vorys, like how are you seeing them adapt from a best practice? I'm sure maybe even you talk around some of the ways that they're maladapting as well, but maybe just walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I would say, a small percentage of brands will have leaders that will say in the early stages, when we were first getting involved in this area, they would say, look, I really think I can gain a competitive advantage in my particular market if I go and get really good control over the sales of my products online, and in particular, good control over the sales of their products on marketplaces. Because then when my sales team goes into their brick and mortar channels, they're not going to be undercut. They're not going to have the channel conflict. They're not going to have the variance in pricing going on in the marketplaces. And I remember a CEO of a large healthcare provider, it's actually my first client in this area, really grow their business and win in their category by being able to go into dermatologists and saying, we're the only brand that's just not looking the other way and dumping products out to distributors and retailers and looking the other way when it's diverted. We're going to really be aggressive on control. And they're able to just take away a lot of market share from their competitors by saying we're a controlled brand online. And as a lot of these doctors and spas or whoever in your category they're selling this, that was a real exciting thing for them to be part of a brand that had control. Now, the vast majority of people really get to control when they start to feel pain, when they start to feel their brick and mortar retailers saying, I'm not going to buy the same quantities from you. I want you to provide the products to me at lower prices. When the Amazon comes back and starts saying, look, we're demanding that you sell the product to us at a lower price, or other sorts of financial pain points are like, okay, this is really starting to be painful for our business. What do we do? And the first thing that we usually have to do when we're talking to a brand is, sort of help them educate what gaining control really looks like in this age of e-commerce, and just help them understand that the way you went to market and how you distributed incentives to people that are buying from you to overbuy, sort of looking the way when there's diversion, when somebody was selling on the street in New York and diverting or dropping price, it just didn't impact their business. They did not feel pain because it didn't show up it didn't impact the person selling in LA. Well, with the marketplace model, it's now greatly accentuated the pain that businesses feel when they don't have good control over distribution, because their distribution issues show up in the marketplaces. Stated another way, Amazon and these marketplaces were able to really grow a lot by sort of playing over the lack of distribution control that brands have. They were able to go out to diverters and gray market sellers and people, even if the brand wouldn't sell to them, they would get all these diverters to sell online. They'd have them all compete against each other, drive down the price, which started to cause lots of pain for the business. So it's helping a brand understand the old level of control. I say it's like you were dressed for the summer, it's now become really cold. That level of protection is not going to work in this new environment. It's going to be painful for you. So then the question for the brand is, and we actually, we formed a team, which we sort of call the e-control foundational team. We said, before we get into enforcement, we'll get to enforcement in a second, you're going to need some compliance. But basically, we're going to have a channel management expert and the head lawyer that run this group look at your business, look at how you're going to market, look at your incentives, look at your policies, get an understanding and say, what are things that you need to do within your business practices and your policies to evolve, to get more control that's going to allow you to have the optimal control of sales online. And it's not going out and a lot of times entering in agreements with every single person in your distribution. It's not always changing your business model. It's not changing all your incentives. But it's looking at a particular business, say, how can we gain just enough control that you can have control of your sales online? And it may be let's put in reseller policies that tell people where they can sell. Let's make your claims against gray market a little bit stronger. Let's let's put in some practices so someone can't go and buy 50 products on your website when we know a consumer would only buy one. Like, let's put in some of these practices that give enough control in this new environment, so when we go out and enforce, we can actually solve the problem and not play whack-a-mole all day. But really, it's education, understanding why you must evolve to stop this pain, and then it's sort of going in, looking at how they're going to the market, and saying, all right, where can we evolve your practices and your policies to gain more control as we go forward. So that's kind of a typical way I look at it, and a process that we go through when we're kind of taking brands through that evolution.